I need good glasses. I don't know
Happy
where my glasses are.
Wednesday. It's Wednesday. That's what day it is. It's Hot
Welcome to Hot
Topics.
Topic. Hey, it's back. It's back. The old community video is back.
And I have to wear my glasses because if you can see from the background, I am in Nova Scotia and I don't have my big monitor.
Oh, that's why you're wearing them. Okay, makes sense.
Yeah, so I've only got my computer.
Glasses? I don't have to wear them because Stacy does. I don't have to wear my glasses because you do everything.
Right. Exactly. So no, it's very weird because I'm used to having my big monitor and I can see on my big monitor, but I can't see on my little screen, and I don't have my camera, but I have my little tiny mic.
Mm-hmm. Nice. I love it. It's so cute.
It is so cute. I still thank Jushmu for showing us this little mic. So I'm very happy.
Right. Julie Campbell, big shout out to her. If you don't know her, check her out on Etsy. You know, she has a Shopify store now too. Jushmu, Jushmu. She makes these very cool pins and stuff. And yeah, so she was the one that was using that mic, and you know, we're like, that's what you need.
Yes. So I love it. It's so cute and has the longest cord ever. So I'm in love with this little mic. It's so cute. It makes me happy. So how are you?
I'm good. I apologize a little bit of delay. As you can see, I'm still at the farm without a background. But did my morning farm routine, let the chickens out, fed them. And I'm here. This is the first time. So I have three, essentially 17-year-old boys. Gray's 16, but almost. So 17-year-old boys. And it was an interesting change. I was talking to Stacy a little earlier because before, you know, you had to ask them to do stuff, right? Like, can you do this? Can you do that? Now they actually start seeing, like, so I'm taking groceries out and they're like, come grab the bags. You know, like, it's like, oh, is that okay? Can you carry that? Are we too loud? It was 1 a.m. They were playing basketball outside. They had their phones on as flashlights so they could play because it's pitch black here, right? And you know, and I looked out the window because I heard the bouncing ball. And then Gray comes running in and says, are we too loud? Do you need us to stop?
So let me get this straight. You have, and one of them's mine. So I'm going to like say this also from a mom perspective. So you have 3 teenage boys. They're being respectful. They're listening. They're offering to help, and they're being considerate.
I got to tell you,
what happened? What did you do? Whatever, you're keeping them then.
We won the lottery on these guys because I got to tell you, I'm going to brag a little bit, but they're really good kids. They're really good kids, and they don't give me any grief. And they're not out trying to find a wild party somewhere. They're like, you know, they put a net together, so they were taking shots, and they were, you know, riding the dune buggy and the scooters, and they were playing cards. They had a real like kind of up north day, and they didn't go swimming because it started raining, but it was, yeah, they've been really great. The only thing I have to do is feed them a lot of food. But other than that,
that's okay. They do need to eat, but they need to eat a lot.
Yeah, but even at that, they've been pretty easy. I just, you know, by the end of the day, because I've been cleaning up all day, and I said, pizza okay? And they're like, yep. So it's like, all right, great. I'm not even cooking anything. So
perfect.
Yeah, so it was good. It was good.
Well, I was on an airplane last night. So it was it's always interesting when you travel during COVID, right? Because I've had people going, you're on it, like, how is that? Like, interesting responses. I put on my Instagram story that I was traveling and I was at the airport, and I had people, like a lot of people DMing me way more than usual. Like, how is it? What's it like? Is it weird?
Are you afraid?
Is it, yeah, like, just so many questions. I think this past year and a half, you don't realize, like, I know it realizes our day, like how it impacts our daily life, but we don't realize how much it impacts some of the bigger stuff like travel. And it was interesting though. So the funny story was when I landed in Halifax and I have to show my proof of vaccination.
Yeah.
And then the guy opens up this area for me to leave the airport because I'm double vaccinated, so I can just go. And it was funny because he said, okay, just go through this kind of pseudo maze. Yeah. And I looked down at the floor for my arrows because that's what we're used to for the past year and a half. Oh. And there's no arrows. So right. I turned the wrong way. And he goes, no, you have to go this way. And I started to laugh. And he goes, what? I said, I'm so used to seeing arrows on the floor, but I've forgotten how to look for direction without arrows. And he starts to laugh and he goes, oh my God, you're right. We need to put arrows. So then I went to the security guard who's watching me, laughing at me. Because he goes, how stupid are you to go the wrong way? Yeah. And I said, sorry, I'm so used to arrows. And he goes, oh my God, you're right.
See? No, it's true. We look for that everywhere. You actually read the sign in the windows in the stores before you go in because you're used to them having specific, criteria. It was interesting that even yesterday I walked into a store and I was waiting. I looked at the person. I'm like, is it okay? And they're like, yeah. And I forgot they're not counting.
Right. Because it's not capacity limits. It's distance limit. It's distancing. So it's going to take a while, even though for me, 50 years, I didn't look in the floor for arrows, but the last year and a half has been so drilled in our heads. Look for signs before you walk in the door, before you turn the corner. And I think what was interesting was at the airport in Toronto, when I arrived, before, this was right at the beginning, I couldn't even get to the checkout counters. They have a checkpoint. So they look to make sure you have a boarding pass. They ask you if you have any checked luggage, and they make sure you sanitize your hands. Right. But the problem is those protocols are great when there was limited people traveling.
Right.
So now they've put all these systems in place, and it was great when it was slower. But the system, so I was overhearing a conversation about, oh my goodness, we now have to change the way we're doing things because it's too busy for our system that was working. So they created a system that was working, but they couldn't maintain that same system because there's more people. And I'll talk about that in a second, because the same thing happened at during security. I went in, and again, they had 2 or 3 of the conveyor belt systems open, and then one of them shut down.
Right.
And the lineup was astronomical, and they didn't know what to do because all of their systems and all of their processes were focused on it being so much slower. So as soon as, because now it's like everyone wants to travel and go somewhere. Yeah. So the systems that they had in place no longer work because it's so much busier.
Right.
So it was really interesting to see them scrambling, going, what do we do?
Well, I think everyone's in that boat, right? They just don't know. I said boat like a Canadian. So yeah, I mean, everyone's in that same thing. And it's just kind of like, my kid, they're going to ball hockey tonight. They're very excited because they haven't played ball hockey in over a year, right? A year and a half, something like that. And the first thing he said was, well, do we have to sign a waiver? What's the protocol? He was asking those questions, which you don't expect, a 17-year-old to ask, because normally you just show up. So I said, well, it's probably somewhere on the email. Go find out and read it because you guys are old enough. And they did. But it was interesting because your default is always, do I have to sign a waiver? Do I have to do, what do I have to do? They're playing.
What are the rules? Yeah.
They're playing ice hockey on Friday. Same thing. He goes, I think they need to sign a waiver. Can you send that to the parents? They probably already know. That's what I said. I said, they probably already know because they're used to it. But yeah, but now it's every time you go out, you go, oh, what do I need to do first? Right.
Right. What do I need to, and I was just even packing, what do I need to bring? What do I need to be prepared for on the plane? What are the rules and stuff like that? But I think I was most fascinated by how quickly they need to change their systems and how quickly they realize as as a business grows and you get more customers, your system that worked when you had 1 or 2 doesn't work when you have 200,000-300,000 customers or people going through and all of that. So it was interesting, the conversation that, again, they created their system, which was very short-sighted in the travel industry, that they created these systems for such a small group of people. And maybe they didn't realize that the restrictions would still be in place, but everybody would be traveling. So it was very interesting.
Well, I think everyone did their best, not knowing it was like the wild, wild west. You know what I mean? Like everyone put in what they could, did what they could, but nobody really, understood everything. And the truth is, there's a lot of vaccinated countries that are going back into lockdown, right? So we're one of the leading countries in the world now. We're over 50% of the population now is double vaxxed. So it's, that's huge, right? It's huge. But so I don't know, I was talking about it with my son, Jack, last night. And I said, it's an interesting thing because as much as, everyone says, well, once we're at a certain threshold, we won't have to close down again. But the problem is you're always going to have those people who aren't vaccinated. And so it's always going to run around a little bit. And the people that are vaccinated can catch the other stuff. They're just not going to get as sick. So don't anti-vaxxers, don't get on my case. But but it was the interesting conversation we had. More than that was I was fascinated by what I was saying to Jack was there are very clear camp. There's three camps. There's people that just go with it and have the vaccine because obviously they're just gonna, they know it's probably a good idea. There's people that are totally pro that say you must do it just to make sure everybody's safe. And then there's the anti-vaxxers, and a lot of them are conspiracy guys, right?
Right.
And it's a fascinating thing because, as I said to Jack, I go, they look at you like the conspiracy guys, not all anti-vaxxers, okay? They look at you like you're crazy that you don't believe that this is a conspiracy.
Right.
And we just, we look at it from the reverse going, really? Do you really think somebody's, but he made a really good point, Stacy, that I never really thought about. And he said, a lot of conspiracy guys are saying that it's a way to control the population, right? They're blaming Bill Gates. They're saying he wants to population control. And he said, Jack said to me, he goes, if he wanted population control, he goes, it wouldn't be the vaccine, because people who are taking the vaccine, they're the people that listen and do it. It's the other people he has to worry about. Right. Aren't taking the vaccine. And so he's like, if you're going to go after the population, you go after those kind of people, not the ones that kind of follow the rules, because if you're trying to depopulate, you want the people that follow the rules, right?
Right. It's very true. That's true.
It was kind of interesting. We just had a great conversation about, and I'm not, listen, like I said, you're anti-vax, I'm fine. It's totally your choice. Don't get me wrong. It's just that it's kind of fascinating to try to understand and grasp what other people are thinking.
Exactly. So, well, we are excited. Today is our first session this afternoon for our GIA summer group study lounge. So it's interesting. So when we did our, this is just, general stuff, but when we did our beta launch, we did not do a study group. We released the program. We were available for questions. And now as soon as you put a schedule to it, people are like, oh, I can show up. Oh, I'll be there. All of a sudden I'm getting dings even this morning, RSVP, people are showing up. And it didn't take much for us to kind of go, okay, we're going to schedule this time for them to work on it. But as soon as you be there at a certain date, a certain time to do your work, all these people are saying, I want to go. Even people who did it in the past, because they always have access. Our past people are coming in saying, can I join? Absolutely. Yep. I see there's a date and a time, I'll be there.
Yep.
I'm like, great. Well, I didn't expect it because I don't know if I would show up. I would have you experienced an online program where they had a study group?
No, I mean, I've heard of them, and sorry, I'm coughing. I hope it's not the coffee. I don't think so, but it could be. Yeah, I mean, I've heard of them, and I know a lot of people firsthand that love to study or whatever. Just like in old school days, where you had to go to the library and work with your group, but
Yeah.
quietly. So it was the same thing. You didn't really work with your group; you were all quiet, working at the same table. But so it's kind of the
Right.
same thing. You're what it is a dedicated time, and I think that's the important aspect of it. So I have always, when I'm doing something, dedicated time, because we all know, how important that is to ensure that you have that time structure to work on. So if somebody needs to do it, if that's how they need to do their program, that's awesome. Like if you're scheduling that time in and you're scheduling 2 whole hours, that's amazing, because 2 hours dedicated time is probably worth like a week of pieces, right?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I guess, like I said, it's just interesting to see how people work. I'm the same as you. I dedicate my own time. I'm not sure if that sort of study lounge was available for some of the online programs I've taken, whether I would have taken
Right.
advantage of it or not, because I like to do things and focus on my own. So I'm really interested in seeing how this goes and how, just how it's all going to go.
The
So
unique part we did was everyone has 2 hours of study group, but then they have an hour of live Q&A with us. So the concept, which is different than most places do like a study group on one day and then a Q&A on another. But our real emphasis was, if you've dedicated 2 hours to work on it and it's fresh in your mind, that's the time you want to ask the questions. So
Right.
so basically you've essentially blocked out 3 hours on a Wednesday, and you can get your entire week done if you really focus and work at it. So, I think the people that are anyone, not necessarily just in our group, but anyone that's out there who's trying to do something new, that's why in sports you have practices, right? Dedicated time for an hour. And it's funny because people don't equate the same thing. I mean, you practice to get prepared for the game. It's the same thing as us. You study, do your work to get prepared for your launch. There's no difference, right?
Yeah.
There's no difference. So it's just a matter of understanding that, know your personality. And if that's what it takes, then that's what you do.
Yeah, exactly. So I love the fact that, it's that date and time, right? Like, it's kind of like going to the gym.
Yeah.
If you say, oh, you can go to the gym and work out anytime, 24/7, your own schedule, I'm not good with that. But as soon as I have, a trainer that says, even if I'm not sort of working on a session, it's like, I need you to be here at 2 o'clock on this day. I will move mountains to be there at 2 o'clock on that day. So it's
Right.
accountability. It's, other people are expecting you. You'll show up, you'll do, and you'll leave.
Yes.
But if you can do it, quote unquote, on your own time, it's a different, because again, you'll never get around to it.
No.
Right? You never get around to it. So,
No. Okay. My nose is running and I'm coughing. This is not good.
Please tell me it's not coffee.
I haven't had anything today. This is the first thing. So tomorrow, and you know what I forgot to do? I forgot to prepare my snickle again.
Oh my goodness. Again, we forgot the snickle. Okay. That's okay.
I have the Snickers bar and I have the pickles, but I can't, it's very complicated. I can't run down. It's a whole thing about stairs being painted and stuff. So
I was trying to explain to my parents last night the concept of the keys, because I was trying to explain the farm. So the main staircase, it's being painted. So you can't use the main staircase, but there's a secondary staircase that only goes to the outside. So, and it goes up to the apartment. Yeah, so you have to go down these stairs to the outside and then come back in the house
with another door.
Through another door. But if it's locked at night, then you have to have your key.
Yeah.
If you're coming down here, you have to go use the key. So.
Just and you're not supposed to step on these stairs for 3 days, right? So they redid this, like they did another coat on the treads yesterday. So, so we've got a system now. We have the apartment key and the office key here, and I hand it to your kid, who's the most responsible for keys. Really, that's the truth. He wears it around his neck at night, and he actually and I go to bed before them. Obviously,
they're probably up till 3 a.m.
So they're required to lock up. And so they do, and then they hang the key on the stair rail. So when I go down, I won't lock myself out of anything. So I have the keys in the morning.
Oh, smart. See,
so
systems.
We have a system, and you have to, like, that's the thing. You must have a system to so you won't get locked out, because they did, right, the first night, and then Jeff had to go get them, and so
you can't get in the house.
Yeah,
but you have to have a system, and I love systems. So I know when I gave my kid the key, like, I don't know about you, but it's natural for me to have a place for it, right? Like, I have a key, I have a place for my key. Like, I come in the house, my key is a home. And all the organizers of the world, my professional organizer, people, friends, that's what their biggest piece of advice is, that everything has a home. So when you pick it up, you know where you're going to put it. So the next time you go to get it, you have it.
Here's the problem with that. These days, new cars, like mine's like 4 years old or something, but you don't need to use your keys, right? Because you throw your keys in your purse, and you just push the button and start your car. You don't need to have your keys out. So the problem is that sometimes you have to dig your keys out to get in the house, right? And then your system isn't, the same as if you were getting in your car, because normally you throw them in your bag, right? If you don't have your purse or your handbag with you, right? And your keys
are so used to getting in the car without.
Right.
Yes. So I don't have that system. My mom has a car like that. So she keeps her car key in the bottom of her bag, because as long as she has her bag, she can open up, as long as it's close proximity, same as yours. I don't have that. I have a very old car. Mine's from 2007. So I need to have my key, and it has a home at home.
Which is great. That's what I prefer. But, I haven't really. And we got to figure out, the problem is, we have, how many doors did we say we had? 7 or 8 doors here. So
it's more than that, I think.
It's
crazy amount of doors.
It's interesting just to walk around at night and lock them all, because you don't even know which doors you're locking. And, so eventually we will develop a system that will say, okay, go through this door when you come in, right? So that you can maintain some type of semblance on where everything's hung and what's being,
what's the deal is. Yeah. But it was interesting. So thinking about the car, so I have a very old car, and you have a new car. So similar though, right? Whatever. Yeah. But so we were saying, so my son just got his G2, which is so he can drive on his own. So that's great. Yeah. So I hand him the key. And one thing that I was talking to my dad last night, he has a car that he physically puts a key into and turns.
Yes.
Now, for people that are like over the age of 18, understand this concept of putting a key in the car and turning it. Yeah. But what I realized is that my son has never done that.
No.
He's either used my car where it's still a push button, but it requires you to just push the fob into the car and then a push button, or a car like yours that doesn't require you to actually put the key anywhere. You just bring it in the car with you and you push the button. Yeah. So both of our cars are push button, and that's what all the new cars are. Yeah. And even though my dad is new, I'm like, he's never had to put a key in the car and turn it. How bizarre is that?
I know. Yeah. Well, my Gray is his sister's car. She's got an older RAV4, and it has obviously same thing, key. And so the first he was learning driving on hers because it's smaller and he was more comfortable. I have a Grand Cherokee, it's bigger. So the first time he drove mine, he was like, how do I start it?
That's really funny, because my dad's car's a RAV4. So maybe the Toyota RAV4s, maybe they're the only ones that are left that have a key.
Well, I gotta tell you, I'm gonna tell you the truth on that. Like, there's something to be said about older keys and stuff. They don't you don't have to worry about batteries running out, that kind of stuff. With ours is like the key fob's getting low, and you're like, holy crap! Now I got to figure it out.
What do I do now?
It's not an easy battery, right? So, so I was luckily, because I lost one of my keys. So I only have down to one, because, those key fobs are like $150. I'm not replacing it. So I was down to one, and I was just happened to be getting an oil change at my local, guy. And I said, can you change the battery? And he did. So, but yeah, it's kind of interesting. So some of the new stuff, I'm not really, like we both love new technology, but as we both know, like old washing machines lasted 30 years, new ones last like 3.
Exactly. Exactly. And like I said, I feel like it's not going to break down as much. We physically have to put that key in and turn it. And it's, we don't have to worry about batteries. I mean, it still has a fob thing and unlock the door and stuff like that. But like literally
it's interesting. Like the last car I had the same, it had a key fob, right? And same thing. And here's the problem. If it's low on battery, sometimes it doesn't sense it. Like it senses, like, so if you're leaving the car and you left your keys there, it beeps saying you leave your keys there. So one time my battery was low and I left my keys in and it didn't sense it. So,
right. Because the battery's not strong enough.
Right. I locked them in. Now, luckily at that time I had 2 sets so I could get back in. But, so some of the stuff, when it's a battery involved, it's kind of like in any homes now, like who's got like, if the power goes out, like we don't even think to have, candles and flashlights and stuff because we assume everything's going to come back up, but it doesn't. So
funny because I went and I bought really small camping batteries or flashlights when we were away a couple of weeks ago. And I literally walk in and I take them out of the bag and I have 3 or 4 teenagers going, hello.
Yeah, I know.
There's a flashlight on your phone, silly.
Yeah. And that's if it's charged though. See, that's what they don't understand because that's what I mean. Like, yes, the flashlights, and I use a flashlight all the time. I was just using it downstairs because I couldn't screw in something. And so, which is because I need Stacy because I don't like to put things together and she's good at it. So is her son, by the way. Anyway, so yeah, but that's the problem. Like it's great, but if if your power goes out and your phone's not charged, what do you do? Right.
And that's where I think the next generation is going to have a problem because they're going to rely so heavily on things like this, so heavily on key fobs that have batteries, so heavily on connectivity that, I mean, you can literally, we joke, but we can literally cripple a generation by having power go away. Like we know where's our flashlight. We understand how to function in a world without power or electricity. They don't.
So we were up the cottage. The kids were really little, like 2 or 3. Do you remember that big? I don't even know if you were here. You might not have been. There was that big power outage in Toronto, in Ontario.
It was in August.
Yeah, and everything went out everywhere. And I was up at the cottage. I had 2 little kids. And our old cottage that wasn't, and everything went out. So all your food, it was 3 days, I think, all your food everything went bad. We didn't have a generator. And I remember going, I don't know, like I had candles because you always had backup candles, stuff like that. But I said it was like limited. And I remember my husband at the time he drove up because I said, I can't do this on my own, like forever. And he said there was so it's about a 2-hour drive. So from home to the cottage, there was no lights working. Like the entire grid had shut down. Right. So he had to go without lights. And so when you've grown up with the era of, things can go wrong like that, you're used to MacGyvering and getting through it. And I did. And I, grabbed ice and shoved it in the fridge just to hopefully get an extra day out of the food, right? That kind of stuff. And then of course, after it was all over, we bought a generator. But before that, you didn't know, but you MacGyvered. And now I wonder, like sometimes, do these guys know how to MacGyver anything? Do they know what MacGyver is? I guess they knew the new version of MacGyver.
Right. But it was interesting because the cell towers, of course, were down as well because all the power and everything. And a lot of people had cordless phones then.
Yeah.
Right. So we didn't rely on this 100% like we do now. We had cordless phones. The problem is as soon as the power was off on your cordless phone. So I actually had an old school phone.
Everybody, every smart person did.
Yeah, and I plugged it into the wall. It doesn't take power.
No,
as long as it was in, so I had no problem. I could call people as long as they had an old-fashioned phone. It was fine.
And that's how we did. That's why we communicated because we both had I was adamant that each house, wherever the cottage or the house, had to have a old school landline that, regular, no power, plugged in for emergencies. And I was adamant about that up until a couple of years ago. And now we don't have phones. It's all cell phones. And so, yeah, if cell phones are down, I can't communicate with anyone.
Right. No, I'm the same, but I still have that, but I don't have a landline. So I wouldn't have
exactly. Right.
I feel like walking around people's houses. Do you have a landline? I have a phone.
It's true. It's just there was no point. Like, why keep a landline for what purpose, right?
Exactly. So interesting.
So,
Well, a lot of old school, new school, technology, all of that stuff. We are going to be kicking it off. So we are changing things up going forward. Summer has hit and schedules are a little bit crazy. So we're going to be we're actually going to do lives every Wednesday now instead of Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
But we'll be back in September, Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Yes. Yeah, we're going to take sort of the rest of July and August and come once a week. There's not as much stuff going on in the world right now, and with vacations and people and summer schools. So and now we're going to say enjoy your week.
Yes.
Have a great week, and we will see you next Wednesday.
Yeah, take care, guys.